All right.
All right, that's it. It's our turn. Has everybody got their microphones on? Probably here just with the echo in here. The time is approximately 6:05 p.m. and December 19th, 2024. Farragut Municipal Planning Commission will now begin. Good evening to those of you in attendance and, well, not online, but recorded online tonight. Thank all of you for attending tonight's Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting. My name is Scott Russ, and I'm the chairman that will be conducting tonight's Planning Commission meeting. We appreciate that each of you has taken the time from your schedules to either attend or at some point in the future view tonight's meeting and observe how our town government works. All Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meetings are public notice per Tennessee state law. All Planning Commission meetings would normally be streaming on the Farragut YouTube channel, but also links to the recordings may be found on the Town of Farragut website. Anybody in attendance that would like to pick up a copy of the agenda at the door when you came in tonight, I'm sure you were able to find those. If you're not able to attend in person, the agenda will also be posted on the Town of Farragut website. Anybody in attendance that would like to address this commission concerning an item on tonight's agenda, please pick up one of the blue cards at the door when you came in, write your name, address, and the agenda item number on that card and present it to Mr. Shipley. There will also be time reserved at the end of the business meeting for resident comments on non-agenda subjects, and that also requires you to fill out a blue card. In order to conduct efficient business-like meetings, the town has adopted rules for how its meetings will be conducted. Primarily, these rules are designed to keep the meeting progressing along and assure that all points of view are heard and considered, and to provide common courtesy to everyone. We ask that you observe the established meeting rules when addressing members of the town staff or members of the Planning Commission. At the beginning of your presentation, please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you address your questions to myself, and if necessary, I'll direct any questions to staff members or other commissioners present. Once you've given your input, please return to your seat. We ask that persons speaking avoid the use of improper language and profanity and only address the agenda issues. Speakers should strive to present original viewpoints and avoid redundancy. We ask that you also stay on topic of that specific agenda item. And also, please remember, we're here tonight doing the people's business. It's a very important responsibility for all of us. With that greeting, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I ask that if you're able, please stand for a moment of silence for prayer and reflection, to be followed by a recital of the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag.
Flagg's been moved. There we go. Or we haven't removed it. Oh.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I first want to ask if any of the commissioners have any announcements or recognitions they'd like to make this evening. None? Mark, I've established that we do have 6 members present, and therefore we do have a quorum for tonight's proceedings. I understand that items number 7 and 8 have been postponed at the request of applicants. Do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda minus agenda items number 7 and 8?
Move to approve the amended
Second.
agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
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 Noes? No noes? Let the record show the amended agenda has been approved. Are there any amendments to the minutes recorded from the November 21st Planning Commission meeting, Mark?
No, sir.
We have a second to approve the minutes from November 21st.
Move
Motion.
to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Noes? No noes? Let the record show that the minutes as posted have been approved by the Planning Commission unanimously. All right, we have remaining after the amended agenda 4 business items to review and consider in our public meeting tonight. So the first agenda item will be agenda item number 3, discussion and public hearing on approval of a final plat for Biddle Farms Commercial. 2 lots, 4.9 acres, Plain Commercial District, Biddle Farms Commercial, applicant.
So if everybody could pull your mics up real close. We're having trouble with the recording tonight, so we're going to have to really try to focus on that, including myself. So the first item is, it's basically a plat involving the remaining section of Biddle Farms Boulevard. That's the main road that comes in off of Kingston Pike that provides access to the commercial buildings that's part of this project. Since it involves platting new public right-of-way, then that has to be, and the easements associated with this part of the development, then it has to be approved by the Planning Commission. So that's why this part is before you this evening. The remaining comments on the plat are the pretty standard comments that we typically have, getting the signatures obviously on the plat. The letters of credit, there's always the standard 2-year maintenance letter of credit for the public improvements and then for the landscaping. Most of the field items have actually been completed. There's still a couple of relatively minor items that they're working on. The staff has met with the applicant and their contractor and design team out in the field to look at what's left. I think we're all comfortable with getting those easily taken care of. They're also working on a written agreement to determine and to really clarify who's going to be responsible for what, because there's some overlapping public areas that the developer is going to be maintaining. So we just need to have that real clear. So that's another thing. And then to get a copy of the declaration of easements and covenants and restrictions that's referenced in the plat, just so we have that handy in case someone wanted to, look at some aspect of that part of the plan. So with those subject tos, the staff recommends approval of this final plat.
I'm going to make a motion to approve with the subject tos.
Second.
Okay, with the motion and second, Mark, are there any persons signed up to comment on this item?
No, sir.
All right, do we have a representative from the applicant?
Yes, if you have any questions.
Do they have any issues with but they sound pretty minor, the subject tos?
I have a question.
Yeah, I do too.
On the discussion of who's going to be responsible for what, how's that being recorded?
Well, we're going to have an exhibit of the land, and it's going to be who's responsible for these different parts of this project, so that it's going to be, the exhibit's going to be tied to a written agreement that would be signed and recorded. We've done that before with other projects like the cottages at Price Farms and Parkside Drive, the medians.
How is it recorded? I mean, where is it recorded? Is it recorded with
Register
the plat?
deeds.
Huh?
Yeah, it'd be recorded at the Register of Deeds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Could you come up to the,
Thank you, John.
I have a question.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
On the plat plan, under notes, item 4, it says the purpose of this plat is to re-subdivide into 2 lots. Why are we, what's the reason for that?
Thank you, Annette.
And then on the site incorporated, 215 Technology Drive, I believe it's because Biddle Farms Boulevard goes up the middle, which.
Well, I'm not sure where the boundaries are of the 2 lots. That was my other question. It's not very clear.
I guess it would be on a Google sheet. It would be to the east side and the west side of the Biddle Farms Boulevard.
Well, there's two R2,
Right,
and you can see that, and then there's 2R1,
right.
which is referenced, and you can see that if you, I have mine.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah, but
zoom in
what's-
on this one, but
You
yeah.
can't tell exactly what's in each lot, and why are we subdividing it? What's the reason for that?
The reason is we've got a right-of-way that goes through the middle of the two, was one
And that what divides it?
In the middle, which would
So that's new property lines that goes through there,
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah.
I
So
was
the
just
right of
little-
way would be creating a new property line essentially through where there's no property line right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You know, if you go on KGIS, where the right-of-way is, if you click on that, it doesn't, nothing comes up, because that's the town's property, it's not.
Okay.
It's, so they have to.
It hasn't been
You have
established
to
yet.
establish the,
Yeah.
yeah, who's responsible for what.
There'll be other plats too, or at least one more plat that'll be coming to you all with the remaining residential streets.
So I do have a question for you, Mark, since we've had this discussion before. So we have trees in the right-of-way in the,
Mhm.
along the, in the, what do you call them, the medians?
They'd be in the tree wells, there's trees there, but the median doesn't have any trees. It just
Okay.
has shrubs because there's a lot of streetlights in that section.
Yes, okay.
So, but again, that's one area that I think the developer's going to be maintaining.
Okay.
But it's in the public right-of-way, so it's kind of like Parkside Drive.
Yep.
Where those medians are right in the middle of the town's property, but
Yep.
they're maintained
By
by
the,
a property
just-
owners association.
okay, we need to make sure that that's
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, because we ran into that issue with the roundabout in Brookline, because we thought that Kroger was responsible for that, but nobody could ever find anything in
Where it
writing.
was like,
So
I
the
saw
town's responsible for
they're
it.
delivering trees.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah, that's gonna look nice with trees in it.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
planting them today.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they-
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
all right, that's all I have.
Commissioner Preston, do you have anything, any questions about that?
Nope.
Mayor Williams?
No, I just, I guess since it is theirs, they'll be paying a water bill for the irrigation, so that's, because that is irrigated.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Annette. We have a motion on the floor that's in second. I'll ask if the motion stands as presented.
Yes.
It appears so. Discussion now completed. All those in favor with the 6 subject twos, say yes.
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 Yes, noes, no noes. Let the record show that agenda item number 3 is approved unanimously with 6 yes and 0 no votes. Agenda item number 4, discussion and public hearing on approval of a preliminary plat and a variance from the distance between driveways requirement in the driveways and other access ways ordinance for the Serenade at Farragut, located at 421 North Watt Road, 30 units, 9.2 acres, zone neighborhood convenience commercial, NCC. Robert Campbell and Associates, applicant.
Yeah, this item's been before you originally as a concept plan a couple of years ago. It's a preliminary plat for a mixed-use neighborhood project. It's going to have 30 townhomes and a commercial area next to Watt Road, North Watt Road. It's on the west end of North Watt Road near the town limits. There's 2 items related to this preliminary plat. The one is approval of the plat itself, and then before that, the access has to be approved separately because it doesn't meet the 400-foot distance between driveways requirement in our driveways and other access ways ordinance. There's an existing Harbin Lane to the south. Here is approximately 131 feet from the proposed access. The nearest part of each access is so they would be requesting a variance from that requirement of 269 feet. Harbin Lane just serves a single dwelling unit right now, but when that property is developed, and I think it's about 50 acres, part of that's in the county, but most of it and most of the frontage is in the town. We'll try to work with that property owner to line up accesses wherever this access ultimately is approved so that those 2 access points line up with each other. When this was looked at as a concept plan a couple of years ago, we talked a little bit about the access, and the design engineer noted that they are placing it there because it has the maximum sight distance. There's some curvature to Watt Road. You kind of come over the hill and drop down into the town. So this was, from their perspective, the best location to put the access for the maximum sight distance. If they were to move it down to Harbin Lane, based on the information that we received from the design engineer, the site distance would really only be marginally decreased, maybe by about 25 feet. It's not a huge difference. But again, Harbin Lane doesn't service a development. It just services a single-family resident. So the question is, if that's the best place for an access on both sides of North Watt Road in that section where they're proposing it, then we'll work to make sure that the developer on the east side of Watt Road lines up with their access. So that's one thing you all would need to take action on, and then we will take action on the preliminary plat once you act on the variance. And of course, whatever your recommendation you have on the variance, then we'll take that to the Board of Mayor and Alderman, since that's a requirement in that particular ordinance. So if y'all have any questions, I can try to answer those. So again, we'll look at the access first. This is the access exhibit that was in the packet. Just to give you an overview, this is kind of the project, the right-of-way that's being platted eventually. This is just a preliminary plat, basically the construction plans for the public improvements, but this is where the the right-of-way would be coming in off of Watt Road. And then there's also a public road going to the north that would tie into that property. There'll be an access, not a public road, but a private access easement that would go to the south. And then here's the 30 townhome lots with open space kind of around that. And then this area is going to be where the commercial part of the mixed-use neighborhood would be against North Watt Road. And this kind of shows that a little bit more detail. They have the dog park kind of in the northwest corner of the property. And this is kind of the commercial, the rest of it. Tree preservation plan, which was in the packet. Most of the really large trees are kind of along the periphery. There's some really large oak trees along Harrison Road. That's one of the staff subject twos on the preliminary plat, is just to really field locate that tree protection fencing and maybe have an arborist involved if there's, to try to minimize disruption to those trees along Harrison Road so that they can be saved. What they're proposing as far as the streetscaping and to address some of the low-impact development requirements of the town is similar to what they did at the cottages at Price Farms, where they've got a lot of rain gardens in the median. And that's going to be another area where we'll need to have an agreement between the town and the developer as to how that's maintained. That's going to be maintained by the development, but that would need to be clear. Same thing we did with the cottages at Price Farms. The homeowners association maintains all those areas in the median, the rain gardens and the sidewalk. So that's kind of an overview of the project. So getting back to the access would be the first action to be taken here. If anybody has any questions on that. The design engineer is here, and he can talk to you all about the access and why they're selected that particular location if you have any questions.
All right, Mark, I want to ask for a motion and a second on the variance for the driveway distance requirement.
Move to approve.
Second.
The variance for the reasons stated by the staff.
Okay, and before we move on to the preliminary plat discussion, Mark, do we have any persons signed up to comment on this item?
No, sir.
Okay, do we have a representative from the applicant present to answer any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mark, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If not for that Harbin Lane, would this variance be needed?
Yes, they actually are within 400 feet of the access to the north, too.
Okay.
It's on the west side of Watt Road.
Okay.
So, yeah, they would have.
Also, just for clerical, this property is not accurately shown on the KGIS map. It's still shown as C1.
Even now?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
And I think I don't know that the parcel north of it is shown as NCC, and I don't think that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that is NCC to
Oh,
the
it is?
north. Yeah.
Okay.
This one obviously should be, and we'll get that
Okay.
addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Those
the
are-
north was rezoned before this one, obviously,
Yeah, I couldn't
several
recall
years
that.
ago.
That's been a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, those are the only, that's all I had.
All right, if you would, go ahead and step up and give us your name and your address, please.
Robert Campbell, 7522 Taggart Lane, Oxford, 37138.
Hello, Robert. How are you this evening? I can't help you there. Maybe we'll make it easier. Do you have any comments on any discussions that you had with the staff?
I believe Mark just stated kind of what we have. We've got slightly better sight distance, and the way Walk Road kind of goes down over the hill, our driveway sits up a little bit, so kind of at the 3.5 feet gives us a little bit better line of sight down the hill. But kind of also in the situation we're the first one here, so we think that ought to have some merit to it.
Thank you, Robert. I'm going to open it up to the commissioners for any other additional questions regarding the variance for distance and driveways. None? All right, so we do have a motion for the variance for the distance between driveways requirement. We have a motion and a second, and discussion closed. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes? Noes? No noes. Let the record show that agenda item number 4, variance from distance between driveways requirement is approved unanimously with a 6-0, 6-0 vote. All right, let's move on.
To the plat, preliminary plat, yeah. And I kind of already reviewed the project, an overview of that. The staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat. There were 11 subject twos. Most of those, if you saw them, are the standard subject twos that we have: drainage permit fees, letters of credit, and those kinds of things. We do need a utility plan sheet for. They've got water and sewer, but we don't have the other utilities, so that's something that we would need in the preliminary plat. Let's see what else, if there's anything to bring up here. Stormwater maintenance agreement, that doesn't have to be provided now. It's just kind of a reminder comment. Low impact development, I think they're trying to address that with the rain gardens, the oak trees, I've talked about that. There is a water line along one of the streets that we need to look at and make sure that it's not going to affect their streetscape plan. Landscape plans will ultimately have to go to the VRB for the detention basin in the commercial area. That really doesn't have to be done now either. Rain gardens, since they are located in the public right-of-way, will, similar to the previous item, we need to get an agreement in place on how those are going to be maintained. And then there's some slopes that are 2.5 to 1 that are proposed, and those require special stabilization measures. And so those are the only subject twos. And again, those are relatively minor from the staff's perspective, so we recommend approval of the preliminary plat.
Move to approve
Second.
with the subject twos, apologize.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Robert, do you have any flavor you want to add to the subject twos? Have you discussed everything with the staff?
I believe we have discussed this, and again, it's been a good conversation. We understand about the maintenance agreements. We did this at Price Farm several years ago, and excited about getting started on this development.
Well, we're excited for you to get started on it as well. With that, I'm going to open up to commissioners. Are there any additional comments or questions for the applicant?
Just want to remind Robert that the approval you're signing, monument sign, has to be approved by VRB.
Yes, sir.
Separately. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Pinchuk. We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded with the subject twos. I'll ask all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Noes? No noes. Let the record show that the preliminary plat for the property at 421 North Watt Road has also been approved unanimously with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
all.
Bye.
Agenda item number 6, discussion and public hearing on a request to amend the Farragut zoning map for the property at 12823 Kingston Pike, formerly known as Summit View Nursing Home.
We got one before that, actually,
Pass the
Scott.
two additional
I'm going to
Weigels buildings.
Weigels.
Number
Sorry,
5.
Weigels.
Trying to get through this meeting faster.
Take all the time we need. Item number 4, discussion, or
Five.
agenda item number 5, I've already crossed off. Discussion and public hearing on a site plan for 2 additions to the Weigels Building at 12001 Kingston Pike, 1.5 acres, zone general commercial C1, Weigels applicant. And I think it's because this was on the agenda last month.
Yeah, it was postponed last month.
Okay.
This one, this is the Weigels at Smith Road, the west intersection of Smith and Kingston Pike. There's 2 additions here. This is the existing layout. One addition is a 13 by 40 square foot addition in the back, and that's for additional freezer room. There's an existing retaining wall. They're going to have to relocate part of it and move it back, but the new wall is only going to be about a little over 3 feet in height. It's not a major issue there, and it easily meets the setbacks. In the front, they're going to have a 12 by 27 addition to make room for a small kitchen area. This apparently is something that's in all the newer Weigels, so it's accounted for obviously with those, but these older locations like this one and probably the one on Campbell Station Road will be coming to you sometime in the future to accommodate these new floor plans that Weigels has. So the addition in the back, as I mentioned earlier, not much to that. It's just going to involve a relocation of part of a retaining wall. The front addition is, an initial question we had on that was, it was bisecting the sidewalk that runs across the front of the building. But there'll be an access into the west side of the addition. And then there's also, which would be kind of here, it's hard to see, but then there's also a direct access into the building on the east side of the addition. So each end of the sidewalk you can get into the building and it's not interrupted. And then they're going to be restriping the parking spaces along this frontage here because of the bump out. They've got plenty of room because they've got an extra wide drive aisle just to the south of the parking strip spaces. Then they're going to have to extend this terminal island slightly because the islands have to be the full depth of the parking space. So if they're extending the stripes for the parking spaces, you're going to have to extend the island, the landscaped island. So that's really the only 2 things that they're doing. As far as the materials, they're going back with brick to match to the greatest extent possible the brick on the existing building. You never get a perfect match because it's been there for a few years, but that's what their plan is, to have brick on both additions. So the staff recommends approval of this site plan, subject to obtaining building permits for the work, of course. And then if they do any alterations to the signage, I don't think they're altering the lighting any, but if they alter any of the signage, obviously that would have to be approved through the Visual Resources Review Board. So with those 2 subject twos, the staff recommends approval of the site plan.
Move to approve with the subject twos.
Second.
Thank you. Mark, do we have anybody signed up to speak on this agenda item?
No, sir.
All right, we have a representative from the applicant.
Howdy, Melissa Clark, 3100 Waggles Lane, Powell, Tennessee. I'm the real estate director for Waggles. I've been working with Mark on this project for a little bit. We were not ready last month with the revisions, so rather than waste your time and mine, I pulled it until we had all the revisions in for Mark to review. This is our standard remodel that we've been doing. This is what we call our Generation 2 stores. And so they've been around for a while, usually about 20 years or so. And so we're going in, and what we're doing is adding food service to these stores. So we add the addition to the back to basically give freezer and cooler room to hold food so that it can be prepared. We take the addition to the front and we move the cash register that is currently in the center of the store to that front bump out. And then we take what is now the cash register area and turn that into a small deli.
So that'll be identical to the North Shore design?
Yes.
Or in our Westland Avenue design?
Yes.
Yeah, for the first time I went in there, I didn't know where I was. I was like, something's different. I couldn't really put my finger on it. So I asked the clerk, I said, when did you do this? I said, well, we just finished it like a month ago. This is, what, maybe a year ago?
Yeah.
And she said, you would not believe how many people come in here and are confused. And I was like, well, put a sign up on the door saying, yes, we remodeled.
Yes, we do try to keep our stores open during remodeling. So sometimes there's a little bit of, confusion there as we're getting it open and getting it going. We have invested in trying to improve our food service and provide pizza and chicken fingers and all those kind of things now.
It's a good design in my opinion, and it looks like it flows really well with that design. And I frequent this particular Wiles. I did too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Do any of the other commissioners have any comments?
I have a question, yeah.
Okay, sure.
As I recall, with the configuration of this Weigel's, that addition in the front was on what used to be the sidewalk, okay? And that necessitated putting that entrance in on the west side of that addition.
Yes.
That's
Is
right.
that standard as well, or was that different?
Yes, that is standard. We actually like the multiple entrances now, one for just traffic flow inside the store, but also, for different safety reasons. It's a
Okay,
good
I
idea
was-
to have
I was
multiple
asking to see if it
entrances.
interfered with what you intended to do with the interior of that, so.
No, that's pretty standard.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. I'm excited about this. I probably am in this store at least once a week, or if not more, and I'm glad to see the changes. But I do have one concern.
Okay.
With the addition in the front, you're pushing the parking spaces away from the building a little further, closer to the pumps. And I know when cars come off Smith Road into your lot, into your establishment, when I'm backing out, they seem like they're coming at me pretty fast, and luckily I have enough room. Now we're losing, I don't know how many feet to back up. So it's a concern from the fact that I'm afraid we might have some accidents. Have you had any problems with this in the past? Have you used this configuration before?
We have not. Now, some municipalities have required that to be compact cars, and we talked about that with Mark, but we meet the requirement here for the aisle traffic, and so he didn't feel like the compact cars was necessary. We have done that in different municipalities. Some of them want it, and some of them, as you guys know, in construction, sometimes things are a little bit smaller on each lot or bigger on each lot. But in this particular location, we had enough room that the drive aisle was sufficient. We
Well,
can
and you
monitor
could-
that.
You may not need to restrap these here because they're not in front of where
Yeah,
the
that's not my
bump
Yeah.
concern, is those four
So
right.
when you're coming in off of Smith Road,
Yes.
that's not going to be affected, and that's where your concern, I think, is.
Yeah.
It's,
Right
these are
there,
going to be
those
back
four
here,
there.
but you'll be far enough into the site by that point to where I don't
You
know that
can't
that's.
cure, the problem is you can't solve stupid, and people that are flying through a parking lot should not be flying through a parking lot. You may want to, if this is a problem, I don't know, there's parking lots where you see they put in traffic calming.
Yeah,
You
you
could
speed
always
up.
put in a speed bump in
Yep.
there because it's private. I mean, that's up to them. but-
Yeah, and I, certainly it's something that you should be aware of.
Yeah, we can look at that. I can have our
but it's-
engineers go on site and make sure that,
You want to make sure that your patrons are safe, and if you see an
Absolutely.
accident issue,
Well-
they'll probably want to address it.
The
Yeah.
problem usually occurs if there's a van or a truck, and you're
Ah.
beside that, and you
Yeah.
can't see very well, and you start backing out, and the car comes in
Flying
off of Smith
through.
Road kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just be aware of it. I don't know that I have a solution, but I know a couple times it's been
Yeah.
a little bit scary.
yeah, I'll look at that and talk to the engineers, see what maybe we can do to
Otherwise,
slow
It's
traffic
just
down a little
something you
bit.
guys need to just keep in the back.
Yeah,
of
even
your
if it's
head.
just maybe a sign or something, or,
Yeah.
something to warn people.
It looks like you have a pretty tight radius, but that's always something you can look at is your turning radius into the parking lot could be tightened, but I don't know, that one looks pretty tight.
People swing in, and as soon as they're in the parking lot, it's a free-for-all. It's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
just not, it's not just in Weigel's. You go to
true.
any grocery store lot, and you better make sure you're paying attention. They're in a hurry.
How many feet is that off of where the current sidewalk is, that extension? It doesn't go out too far. It didn't look like.
That's what I didn't know. I couldn't see any actual
Yeah, it
measurement.
goes out 3 or 4 feet.
But there's no sidewalk in front of it, it's just strictly bollards lining it.
There's bollards in front of the addition.
No
Yep,
sidewalk there.
no.
Well, no need,
But-
if you got two
Yeah.
side doors.
Yeah.
The sidewalks are not bisected because you can get in on either end, but
Sidewalk's what, 4 feet?
5 is what we
Standard.
typically require. I don't know with the age of that one if it's 5. It's probably wider than that on the front of this building. It's probably wider than 5.
Looks like the
think
sidewalk
it
on the
is.
right's 5 feet, the one on the left might be more, but anyways.
Yeah, he
It
doesn't show
turns,
the,
it curves around on the other side.
yeah.
Okay. Just be aware.
Very good.
All right, we'll definitely look at that and make sure we can address it.
All right, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you all.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll ask now that with discussion completed, or do we?
No changes.
No changes,
no-
just
no-
the
no-
subject twos.
No changes, and do we accept approval, say yes with subject twos?
Yes.
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 Yes. Noes? No noes. Let the record show, Mark, that agenda item number 5, two additions on the site plan of the Weigels at 1201 Kingston Pike is approved unanimously with a 6 no votes.
Thank you all, we appreciate it. and we
Thank you
will be
so
back.
much. All right, look forward to it. Agenda item number 6, discussion and public hearing on request to amend the Farragut zoning map for the property of 12823 Kingston Pike, formerly Summit View Nursing Home, from general commercial C1 to community service S1. 5 acres, Benefield Richter's applicant.
Yes, we discussed this last month, and commissioners were very supportive of this reuse of the former Summit View Nursing Home for an independent living and care facility as provided for in the S1 zone. As we talked about, rezoning to the S1 district typically requires a concept layout plan, but that's usually targeted toward an undeveloped property. This is completely developed. So really the only item that they need for the rezoning is the general location and the type of transitional area for this, because the area to the north is zoned R1, is zoned residential. So this interface here between the S1 and R1 has to have a 50-foot transitional area. And there's different options that you can use in there. We talked about some of those at the meeting. What they've chosen to do there is just to plant a 35-foot buffer strip. They could actually spread that material out to the 50-foot transition space. That'd probably be what I would suggest unless they need it for some reason. But that's the option that they've selected. Of course, the landscape plan for that would have to go to the Visual Resources Review Board, and we would require a letter of credit for completion to make sure that that's taken care of, since it is a condition of the rezoning. So we prepared the resolution for the Planning Commission for this rezoning as PC-24-20, and it recommends approval of ordinance 24-24 to rezone the property at 12823 Kingston Pike from C1 to S1. The staff is supportive of this rezoning because it does advance the town's comprehensive land use plan goal of encouraging greater housing choice. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Move to approve Resolution PC-24-20.
Second.
Okay, Mark, do we have anybody signed up?
No, sir.
Residents? No?
No.
Do we have a representative from the, excuse me, the applicant?
Appears we do.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. Amy Sherrill with Benefield Directors, 902 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Hello, Amy.
Hello.
Good evening. Do you have anything that you'd like to provide in addition to the comments and discussions you've had with the staff previously?
No, but happy to answer any questions you all have.
Okay. With that said, I'll open it up to the planning commissioners.
Well, we've talked about this, I think,
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah, we-
It's pretty much a
We're really-
no-brainer.
We're really looking forward to it,
Excited.
I think.
Yeah, we're good with
collectively
this.
as a town.
Us too.
Yeah, good.
What is it going to be called?
I don't recall what he decided on the final name.
Okay. If you guys can get that too, I'd like to get this information out so that people know that we've got something new coming, because it's been that's been quiet for a while, so it'll be nice to see
Okay.
some activity, and people will be curious, so.
Yes.
The lady sitting on the front row would probably like to know what it's called, too.
Yeah.
Bet.
Okay, with a motion on the floor and a second, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes, noes, no noes. Let the record show that PC 24-20 has been approved unanimously with a vote of 6, 0 noes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Mark, do we have any utilities on the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, with that said, the time is now approximately 6:46 PM, and the December 19th, 2024 Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good Christmas.
Be safe and be well.